These days, it's really hard to surf the internet without getting a bunch of bad advice when it comes to running your business. And if you don't know what you're looking for, and if you have no idea what you're trying to accomplish, you could catch yourself taking somebody's bad advice. And I have 5 things that will help you be aware of bad advice out there. The first bad advice that I hear a lot of people saying on the internet is do everything yourself. Or at least do everything yourself in the very, very beginning and maybe eventually pass it off to somebody more competent. Here's the reason why it's bad advice. In essence, you still have to know about everything in your business when you first start. It's probably going to be you. And so you're not going to ever get away from doing everything yourself, at least in the beginning. But you should already have a plan to delegate the areas of business that you're just not good at. So the first bad advice, trying to do everything yourself and not knowing when to invest in somebody to come in your business and help you. Nowadays, that could be less expensive than it was when I started. For example, there is a plethora of virtual assistants out there in different countries that do very well with technology, social media, and other things. You could choose to invest in people like that at a low cost, especially if you're not able to pay the high cost of labor here in America or wherever you're at. So that's one way you could leverage things that you just shouldn't be doing in your business anymore to somebody who can be more competent and a better investment. Number 2, when it comes to that, there's so many artificial intelligence platforms that can help you automate certain things. It does better than you because you are not able to pay much attention to those things, such as following up, email campaigns, next steps. All those things need so much attention, and if you can no longer do it because you're busy doing other things that are good for your business, you have to hire or invest in something to do all those things for you. All those things are fundamentals that still need consistency. Number 2, this is bad advice when it comes to sales. I see so many people online that train aggressive style sales. They say, don't take no for an answer. Here's the definition of sales I really want my students to really buy into. It is professionally coaching or helping somebody make another buying decision or the next steps. When it comes to sales, you might have a long sales process. And if you don't really get good at selling the next step, that leads to the next step, that leads to the next step, that leads to a close, then you're trying to go from point A to point Z and skipping all the in-betweens, your conversion ratio is going to be really low. Now think about it like this. If you sell a very expensive product or service, you will most likely not close on the first step. You have to build rapport. You have to give them authority to say yes or no. You have to build and sell your brand. You have to build trust. You have to build a relationship. So, for example, high stakes coaching, videography, podcasting, all those services, you're going to have to sell the next steps for a minute until you ask for the close. And so if you don't understand the concept of professionally helping or coaching people buy, then you're going to try to go from point A to point Z aggressively because you have a quota to make. Now, if you're a door-to-door salesperson, if you are somebody who likes to do sales at a convention where that's kind of your approach, that's fine. But if you still don't take the attitude of professionally helping or coaching somebody make the next buying decision, you're going to come across way too aggressive and you're probably going to convert way less than you want to. Or if people convert, it's because they're tired of you, they just want you gone. I've done that with people that knock on my door, try to sell me something, and they were so good at overcoming the objections, I just bought from them because I wanted them gone. You're going to pay the consequences for that. Trust me. The next bad advice that I hear out there is when somebody talks about discounts, right? If somebody's out there and they're not wanting to buy, then you offer them the next deal, then the next discount, then the next discount, then the next discount until they say yes. This kind of goes with number 2, which is not taking no for an answer or aggressively selling. What happens when you give somebody an enormous price that shocks them? And then you say, well, I can do it for half off, then 25% off of that, then 30% off of that. You come across extremely dishonest. And nowadays, people are buying value. They don't mind paying the high prices. They just have to understand the value. So if you start discounting everything or giving deals, you're diluting the value of what your product or service is, and you might not even get the conversion because of that. Instead, I want you to get really good at helping them understand your value, listening to them better so that you hear the pain points and you come across as the solution, and then asking for the business. Now, if they say no, which they might, it's an opportunity for you to try to clarify anything that they do not understand. You still have the authority to do that. They're probably still nice at this point. And if you can address those things and you still ask for the business, maybe you could add something in for additional value rather than discount or make a deal with them. I want you to still get full price of what your product or investment deserves and maybe adding something in for extra value versus coming across as somebody dishonest or a product that's not worth the price you're asking for up front. Another piece of bad advice I hear, and look, I'm not against this, but I hear so many gurus out there who are not CPAs talk about paying zero in taxes all the time. Now, here's what I actually do suggest. Take every legal write-off you can so you can pay the least amount of taxes that you're supposed to. And if you stay within the boundaries of what's reasonable, you'll probably not spend anything in taxes or very little. It's not always a bad thing if you pay taxes. That means you've been profitable. And if you can't see that profit in cash flow, that sometimes means you have a spending problem or a budgeting problem. So paying taxes is not always bad. I just don't want you to pay taxes that you shouldn't pay, so go it as low as you can. But if you're always trying to go for zero, what I find is people start to toe the line of unethics to try to get as many write-offs as they can to articulate it in a certain way so that it looks like a write-off legally versus not if you didn't try to articulate it. So be careful with that one because I've seen too many people try to go for zero, they get audited, and they end up having to pay at the end anyways. If you have to pay something, just make sure that you're doing everything you can to talk with a professional to get all the legal write-offs as possible to pay the least amount of taxes legally. The key word here is legally. Trust me, don't toe that line. How should successful people dress? Okay, let's talk about that. Now, there are people out there that will say that you have to always look good and wear a suit and this and that. There are people out there that just don't care about how they look. They say, look, know who your client is and dress just a step above them. So let me put it to you this way. If I'm dealing with a client on a sales call or a sales conversation, I'm not trying to look like I just crawled out of somebody's chimney. Okay? I'm not going to show up dirty. Now, if I'm a technician cleaning chimneys, and they don't see dirt on me, they might question if I'm in somebody's house if I know what I'm doing. Now, when I did sales for my duct cleaning and HVAC company, I wore nice slacks, a tucked-in shiny polo with a beautiful logo on it. I always had a fresh haircut, and I was always clean because I sometimes did inspections where I got just a little bit dirty. And I did not want to come across dirty to anybody. I also had nice shoes on. And that's how I did sales when I ran that company. I used to be a financial advisor, and I dressed in a suit and a tie all the time because I was dealing with high net worth individuals where they also dress the same way. When I coach my lawyer clients from San Diego who do about $36 million in annual revenue, they're dressed in a suit and tie. You better bet I'm showing up in a suit and tie, even via Zoom. I'm a proponent that you should match who your clients are and try to go one small level above that. Now, if you over-impress, you can also throw them away. For example, I have these clients that run a plumbing business, and they show up to our sessions in their work clothes because they're two individual brothers that still have to be in the field, and I'm teaching them how to build a business. If I have a suit on that day, I'm taking off the coat and loosening up my tie, and I'm rolling up my sleeves so I can help them feel comfortable in there. Now, that's a psychological thing. I'm not saying it works. That was advice my mentor gave me, and I feel confident that way. But when it comes to how you look, it is still one way people choose to trust you, and you should be very aware of how you look, how you smell, how you talk, how you articulate. All those things are very important because people will pick up on that. So those are the 5 things I believe is bad information out there. I gave you a 6th bonus one about how to dress. I hope that you guys take this, go out there and win, and stay strong with your business.